You've installed a Claude Code plugin, ran a / command. Got a result, moved on. But do you actually know what happened? What files did Claude read? What gave it permission to touch your code? If you can't answer that, you're a user, not a builder. Today we fix that. This is the anatomy of a Claude Code plugin. Every plugin is some combination of 4 things: a manifest that describes it, skills that handle user commands, agents that coordinate complex multi-step work, and hooks that respond to events. Think of it like the load-bearing structure of a building, varies from building to building, but the basic components are always the same. That's the whole model. Some plugins have all 4, most start with 1 or 2. Knowing that shape before you write a single line is what separates copying examples from actually understanding what you're building. Let's start at the outside, the directory. Before the directory, a quick distinction. Claude Code gives you 2 ways to add custom skills. Standalone config lives in your project's .claude folder, short skill names, no prefix, meant for personal or project-specific workflows. Plugins get their own directory and manifest, and their skills are namespaced. The cost of plugins is that prefix. A standalone skill is /hello. A plugin skill is /myplugin::hello. That's the distribution tax. In exchange, you get versioning, marketplace distribution, and the same skills working across every project. Basically, standalone for experiments, plugins for anything you'd want to share. Here's what a plugin directory looks like. At the root, a .claude plugin folder, and this folder contains exactly 1 file, plugin.json. That's your manifest. Everything else lives at the root alongside it: a skills folder, agents folder, hooks folder, bin folder, and .mcp.json for MCP server configurations. One common mistake: people put skills inside the .claude plugin folder and wonder why Claude doesn't find them. The runtime only looks for plugin.json inside that folder. Everything else, skills, agents, hooks, belongs at the plugin root, not inside the manifest folder. When Claude Code sees a plugin through the plugin dir flag during development or a marketplace install, it does the same 3 things. Finds plugin.json, reads the manifest to understand what's available, what skills, what agents, what hooks, then loads them. The manifest is the index. The directories are the implementation. Claude Code doesn't scan your folder looking for skills, it expects them where the layout says they'll be. For development, run Claude with the plugin dir flag pointing at your folder. Make a change, run /reload plugins. No restart needed. That's the container. Now the manifest, the single file that tells Claude Code who this plugin is and what it can do. Open .claude plugin /plugin.json. The first field, name. This is the most important one to get right, because it becomes the namespace prefix for every skill this plugin exposes. A plugin named myplugin gives its skills the prefix myplugin::. Get this right before distributing. Changing it later breaks every user's invocation. Description: what shows up in the plugin manager when someone browses. Version: optional, but you want it. Set a version and users only get updates when you bump the field. Skip it and host in Git. Every commit becomes a new version automatically. Author: optional attribution. That's your identity layer. Last manifest field, dependencies. Same idea as package.json if your plugin needs another plugin installed to work. You declare it here. Each entry is either a bare plugin name, which always pulls the latest, or an object with a name and version constraint. Why bother pinning? Because an upstream plugin can ship a breaking change and silently break yours. With constraints, you stay on tested versions until you choose to move. If 2 plugins conflict over a shared dependency, the install fails with a clear error. Most early plugins won't need this, but once you're composing skills from multiple sources, a version pinning is how you stay stable. Now let's look inside the skills folder, because this is where the actual behavior lives. Each skill is a folder inside skills. Inside that folder, 1 file, skill.md, the folder name becomes the skill name prefixed with the name from the manifest. So a plugin named myplugin with a folder called review exposes myplugin::review. That's the naming contract. Skill.md has 2 parts, a YAML front matter block at the top and the instruction body below. The front matter is where you configure behavior. Description tells Claude when to use this skill. Allowed tools is the permission list. List a tool there and the skill can use it without approval. Leave it off and it will ask for permission every single time. This is how the skill developer pre-approves what the skill needs. If your skill always reads files and runs grep, you add those to allowed tools. Now Claude runs them without stopping to ask, no permission dialogues interrupting the flow. It's the developer saying, these tools are safe, required for everyone, and users shouldn't have to manually approve every single action. What's not in the list still prompts. That's skills, but plugins aren't limited to skills. A well-built plugin can ship agents, hooks, executables, language servers, MCP servers, and 2 environment variables that connect them all. Let's go through each. The Agents folder holds custom subagents, each one a markdown file with YAML front matter, name, description, model, max turns, and a full system prompt. Once installed, agents appear in the /agents interface. Claude invokes them automatically when context matches. The full agent design pattern, that's a dedicated episode. Hooks live in hooks/hooks.json and fire on lifecycle events. Post tool use, session start, file changed, over 20 events total. Hook types range from shell commands to HTTP calls to full LLM prompt evaluations. A plugin can watch everything Claude does and respond automatically, run a linter after every file write, post to Slack on session end, verify a tool call before it executes. Hooks are how a plugin makes things happen without the user asking. The bin folder is the simplest component. Executables you drop there get added to Claude's path for the duration of the session. You can package custom binaries, and they'll become invocable as bare commands in any bash tool call, no full paths. No path manipulation. That's how plugins ship utilities that hooks and skills can call directly. 2 config files extend Claude's tooling further. .mcp.json bundles model context protocol servers. They start automatically when the plugin loads and appear as native tools in Claude's toolkit. External databases, APIs, services, whatever the MCP server exposes becomes a Claude tool. .lsp.json wires in a language server for real-time code intelligence. Instant diagnostics, go to definition, type hover as Claude edits. Deep dives on MCP and LSP, coming in the series. 2 environment variables tie everything together. Claude plugin root is the absolute path to your plugin's installed directory. Reference your bundled scripts, binaries, and config files through this. It changes when the plugin updates, so treat it as ephemeral. Claude plugin data is a persistent folder that survives plugin updates. Use it for installed dependencies, caches, generated files, anything that should outlive a single version. Both are automatically replaced by Claude Code at runtime. Claude plugin root is where your code lives. Claude plugin data is where your state lives. One more design pattern worth knowing, the orchestrator. One skill, named to match your plugin, acts as the single user visible entry point. User types /myPlugin, that skill loads and routes to the right subskill based on what the user wants. Subskills are internal. They don't show up in /help, can't be called directly. It's not a built-in feature, it's a convention that keeps your plugin's interface clean. Building an orchestrator from scratch, that's exactly what we're doing next episode. Before we close, the trade-offs. First, flat skills versus the orchestrator pattern. Multiple named user invocable skills is simpler to build and easier to debug. The cost is interface sprawl. Users see every skill in /skills. The orchestrator hides complexity behind one entry point, but adds a routing layer. Neither is wrong, it depends on how many skills you have and who your users are. Second, should subskills always be hidden? Not technically. Some developers prefer user-invocable subskills because they can call them directly when debugging. It's a convention, not an enforced rule. Third, plugin versus standalone. If a workflow lives in one project, standalone is faster. Plugins earn their overhead when skills need to cross project or team boundaries. That's the anatomy. Directory, manifest, skills with scope permissions, agents, hooks, bin, MCP servers, LSP servers, and 2 environment variables that bind it all together. If this landed, subscribe because next episode, we build an orchestrator from scratch and wire it to 3 subskills. See you there.